Hello everyone, today we're going to go over how to install Windows 10 on your computer. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download the media creation tool from Microsoft. It's a free download. Here's the link. Feel free to pause the video while you write that down. And once you get there, you're going to click on Download Tool Now, run that tool. So you're going to hit Accept. Once you get to this window, we're going to create an installation media. So if you just built a new PC, this is probably what you're going to want. I'm going to be using VirtualBox, which is a virtual machine we can go over later. I'm still going to need what's called an ISO file to install it there. But what you'll be doing is most likely installing this to a USB so you can plug it into your computer and boot from it to install Windows. Okay, so you hit next. Usually the recommended settings are okay. Some people like to do both in case they want to install on some older machines, but that's rarely needed anymore. So we'll hit next there. Okay, now for you, you probably want to do a USB flash drive. I'm going to say ISO file because I want to load this Windows install into a program called VirtualBox. So I'm going to select that, but just keep in mind if you're installing this on a new custom build or at a hardware level you want to boot into the USB and do a Windows install on one of your hard drives, you're going to go ahead and select USB flash drive. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. All right, so we went ahead. I selected a saved location. Now you have to wait until Windows finishes downloading the ISO file. Once the download's done, it's going to go ahead and either write it to the USB that you would have selected in the next step, or the previous step rather, or if you selected ISO file like me, it's going to go ahead and just create that file wherever you wanted it saved. Okay, so let's pause here. Okay, so we've created our bootable Windows 10 install USB. I'm using a virtual machine here, but it's going to look the same once you boot from that USB. If you have any problems booting from the USB, make sure that it's selected as the first boot device either by going into the BIOS boot settings, which is usually the delete key for most motherboards right after you turn on a computer, or some motherboards will allow you to push certain boot keys like F11 or F12 on boot so that you can go into a boot menu. For example, many Asus motherboards for desktops will be F8 to select a boot device. There are other boot keys such as F12 is a popular one. Lenovo and Dell like to use it. I think MSI likes to use F11. As I mentioned, Asus desktop is usually F8. Acer, I believe, is F12, but you may have to enable it in the BIOS first. Anyhow, it's preferred to use that method rather than modifying the BIOS because then you don't risk later having a USB device plugged in and it's trying to boot from there rather than your operating system. Or you just have to go and change it back later, which I guess isn't a big deal either. So once you boot from your Windows install USB, this is the first screen you're going to see. You'll just click Next. You'll click Install Now. Notice that there is a repair option here. That's more for troubleshooting, which we might get into with some other videos. But for now, we're going to click Install. Okay, you can put your Windows key here if you wish. I have had better luck just inserting it later. Um, don't ask me why, I can't explain it, but if you do have a brand new retail key, you shouldn't have any problem putting it here. If you're activating or reactivating, I usually just hit I don't have a product key and I'll enter it in later. You'll select the edition that you've purchased. So in this example, I'm going to use Windows 10 Pro. Most of the time you're going to use either Home or Pro. A lot of these other options, most people won't have to worry about them. Okay, of course you accept the agreement next, and here you're going to want to hit custom because this is a brand new install. We have an empty drive or we're wiping and reinstalling on a current drive. So we're going to say custom. Okay, in this case, my drive is already erased. It's a virtual drive. It's about 30 gigs. Here you're going to want to be very careful that if you do have any data on a drive that's currently plugged in, you may want to back up that data first to be safe, unless you're absolutely sure you know which drive you want to, that it's safe to erase and to proceed with the install. Um, if your drive does have data on it, you'll see this delete option highlighted. So you want to find the drive number that you want to delete. In my case, I only have a drive 0. You would hit delete and it should look like this, where you just have the free space equal to the total size and you simply hit next. Okay, so at this point it's going to take at least a few minutes depending on the speed of your drive and your computer. So we'll pause here and then we'll come back once the computer restarts. I did want to add, once you get to the step where it says you're ready to restart your computer, it'll count down, about a 10-second countdown. You can unplug the USB at this point. Windows does not need you to have that USB plugged in for the rest of the setup. I don't believe this is true with Mac OS, so if you are doing a Mac OS install, which we'll get to in another video, you will want to keep it plugged in. But for Windows, you can unplug it after these steps have finished, and once you see the screen that's counting down to restart. Additionally, by unplugging it there or right after the restart, you don't risk booting into the USB again by accident instead of booting into the hard drive, which now has the beginnings of a Windows installation prepped. Okay, so at this point, your computer should have restarted, and now it's going to take you to the initial Windows 10 setup steps. So you can just click next here or yes. Yes. I usually skip this unless you want to add another keyboard language. Okay, most people are going to just want to do setup for personal use. Later we might go into the organization setup, which I usually don't do through here anyway. So let's go personal use. Next. Now here, if you have a Microsoft account and you see yourself wanting to buy store apps and things, you may want to either create an account or use your current account. I prefer not to tie most of the machines we set up to a Microsoft account, so I'll select offline account down here. Okay, I'll hit limited experience, and then we'll go ahead, and in this case I'll just put tester. I'm going to skip putting in a password, and I usually turn off all these settings here for privacy reasons. You can always adjust these later in the control panel settings. Okay, again I'll hit not now. Right, and then it'll just take a minute or two depending on your computer to do the final steps here. Alright, congratulations. Once you see the desktop, you're all done. Now Windows is going to start looking for a display driver, and then you should see your resolution adjust accordingly once that's installed. In the next video, we'll go over some of the optimization and setup steps I like to go through whenever I do a new Windows install, especially if it's an OEM machine, meaning you bought it off the shelf from HP, Dell, Acer, it comes with a lot of preloaded apps and things like that. So we'll help you clean all that up. Thanks for watching.